Situations and conversations with Renee. Real situations, real conversations. Empowering the community leads to elevation. Entertainment and education, no better time than now. Pure enlightenment for the crowd. This is Situations and Conversations with Renee.
Today on Situations and Conversations, we are talking about fibroids. Ladies, how many of us have been told to just deal with it when it comes to painful or excessive bleeding during our menstrual cycles? Well, I say enough is enough. Join the conversations as I sit down with health professionals and my amazing S&C crew to talk about fibroids and why they hit Black women in particular the hardest. Buckle up, buttercups, and let's get into it. Thank you, ladies, for being here to discuss such a personal and prevalent issue in our community when we're talking about Black women and Black women's wellness. We're here to talk about fibroids, y'all.
Yeah.
And I have to say that I have no personal connection to this issue physically. But I have had so many of my girlfriends tell me about fibroids. And I've been hearing about it for maybe, the last maybe like 20 or so years. But the number of people that I know that are impacted by fibroids has grown exponentially over the last couple of years, or at least that they're telling me about it. And so I was sitting here thinking like, this is a real situation that we need to have a conversation about. So again, thank you guys for participating in this very personal episode to educate the community around fibroids. So that's enough talking on my side. Like I said, I don't know anything. You all are the experts. And so I want to start off with you, Noni. Thank you for being here. Always a resident health expert for us here on Situations and Conversations. I'm just going to jump right in. What are fibroids?
Well, Renee, fibroids, first of all, like you just said earlier, affect so many Black women, Black and brown women. By the time many Black women, by the time they're age 40, 70 to 80% of them will have experienced fibroids. So it's a big problem in our community. Now, that question, what are fibroids? Fibroids are growths in the uterus of a woman. The uterus, also known as the womb. And I like to think of it as, say, a house that houses the unborn baby, the fetus or the unborn baby, if a woman is pregnant. And so think of this house. Let's pretend this is a house made out of brick. Okay. So outside this, there's a brick wall outside the house, and that's painted, the outside painting. Think of that as the exterior lining of the uterus. And then inside the room is the inner wall. And the inner wall also has a lining. Imagine a brick house that has painting inside. And then in the middle of this layer of paint, or these two linings, is a brick. Now, the brick, in the case of the uterus, are muscle, the smooth muscle that makes the wall of the uterus. Okay. And so sometimes the cells of those muscles will just decide to divide uncontrollably and grow and become tumors. And
on their own?
On their own, yes. We don't know what triggers that, but it happens a lot, especially in Black women, Black and brown women.
Okay.
Yeah, so fibroids are growths or tumors that are not cancerous. They're non-cancerous that happen in the uterus.
Because when you hear tumor,
Right.
the first thing you think of is cancer.
Yes.
But you're saying these are growths inside of a woman's uterus. It's going to be a woman. And they just can decide that they're just going to grow.
Yes, so they come from that muscles, the muscle, the wall, that's where they start. And they can grow outside the uterus or inside the uterus. Oh. And they can bring about different symptoms depending on where they are located. Well, some women can have one or two. Some women can have many fibroids.
And how early does this start?
So for us Black women, this tends to start early compared to women in other races.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe late teens, 18, and then all the way into their reproductive years, all the way into the 40s and late 40s.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you for that very, very clear and visual breakdown. Because now I'm thinking about a brick house with the lining. I'm seeing this, but you, Abibad, have actually experienced this and feel this as well as you, Donisha. And so let me start with you, Abibad.
Yeah.
You had or have fibroids.
Mm-hmm. So my fibroids was within the lining of my uterus. It was the size of a grapefruit and a kiwi. When I found out that I had fibroids, it was right after I had my son. And at that time, it was a P-side. It was only one. So my son, at the time when I ended up having complications with the fibroids, he was about 8 years old. So it took 8 years for that pea size to grow as big as a grapefruit, and then an additional fibroid where it was the size of a kiwi. And I recall after having my son that the doctor was like, oh, do you want to get a hysterectomy or do you want to tie your tubes? That was the first thing that she mentioned after having my son. And at that time, my fibroids was only as the size of a pea. So I was like, well, no, I want to keep my uterus and I want to keep my tubes too. Like she's like, well, you're 35 at the time when I had my son. Like, are you going to plan to have more kids? I was like, well, no, but why would you ask me unless I suggested it or asked questions about it? And I think that's the issue right now, is that people who don't look like us, who are physicians, they're quick to make sure that we get rid of our uterus instead of just finding other solutions of different procedures that can help you with reducing your fibroids, right, or getting rid of them. So she mentioned a myomectomy and a hysterectomy. That was the only two that she mentioned. It was not until I did my own research where I can find there was other procedures that I can have that can actually keep my whole entire uterus in my tubes. And it was immobilization. And it was a procedure that actually was very minor. I didn't have to be cut open. There's two ways that they can enter your body. It was on your wrist in the main artery or somewhere around your uterus. And I chose the one on the wrist, which they had to travel a tube all the way down. And what they did was, it was some type of solution that will help dissolve the fibroids, right? It will freeze off the blood circulation. And then that's when the fibroids will start to dissolve, and because it's not getting life, like blood pumping into it.
Right, because that's my understanding. Don't they suck? They feed.
Yeah, they feed off the blood. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and that's how
they
grow.
grow.
Right.
Okay.
And the thing about growth of the fibroid is, from what I have gotten as far as my research, is because of stress or the way that you eat. Overall stress. Stress is that underlying killer that will affect your whole entire body, that we don't really think about. No. Especially as women and Black women, we go through a lot of stress that we don't even really project out to show that we are dealing with, right? So it's all internal, and and our bodies will show that. And so when I did my immobilization, it was successful. My belly went down. I didn't have extreme bleeding anymore. I decided to let go of my IUD at the time because I wanted to really understand, to have my body back to normal, and not to have any chemicals being, involved or anything like that. I just really wanted to see where my body was at. And so that's what I did, and that was my journey. And yeah, like, the thing about it is my mom also had fibroids. And so I had no clue that she was dealing with that until I found out that she ended up having a hysterectomy. So when you think about it, a lot of women in their 40s, especially in the older generation, they're always getting hysterectomies. And I would just thought that it was just because you're going through menopause, you just don't need it or whatever.
Yeah.
But it was never explained to us. And so when I found out about mine, I had that discussion with my daughter, and of course it scared her, but at the same time she has more of a knowledge of what's going on with her body.
Absolutely. We need to talk about this. Generations to generations, we were not, and we still are not, having the right kind of conversations about this. So Donisha, what was your experience?
So my experience, I think it started about 2012. I had a cyst burst, and I thought like, okay, my grandmother had cysts, my mom had cysts, like, okay, this is happening. And I went for an ultrasound, and that's when I discovered that I had fibroids. And to B-Bad's point, my fibroids were very small, pea size, and I think a blueberry size. I had 2. So cystic burst, was hospitalized for that, got treated for that, but gave it time. So that was 2012. So now we're talking 2000, and I think I started going to the doctor about my stomach issues probably like 2021. Really noticing that I felt bloated. I felt bloated back in 2012, but I was like, yeah, okay. But really, it was started to become unbearable. Like, you go to sleep bloated, you wake up bloated. No matter what I ate, I was always bloated. That was a big sign for me. And then I started having extremely hard periods. And I'm a person that's pretty active, never really had hard periods. And all of a sudden, I am having to wear diva cups. I'm having to wear I think they call them period panties that I'm having to wear. It's a situation. So, what ended up happening was I got a job at Oregon Health Authority, and I really learned about advocacy when it comes to my health. And so I started going to the doctor really saying, these are the specific things that I want you to do on me. These are the tests I want run. This is the why. These are the symptoms that I'm having. I was able to use language that they understood to explain why I needed them to figure out what was going on. So I finally advocated to get another ultrasound, and that's where I realized that my fibroids back in 2021 were about the size of they ended up growing to a clementine orange size and a strawberry. So they're still telling me to monitor it. They're saying to me, let's offer you the procedure that BBAT had where it's minimal and all these things, or hysterectomy, because at the time I didn't want any more children. So I ended up waiting and sticking it out, me trying to be healthy the natural way, change up my diet again, take cheese out, bread out, all the things they say to do. And I ended up back at the doctor saying, I can't. Here's my journal that I've kept. Here's what's happening. My cousin, who I do have permission to talk about her story, Shoebox by Key, shout out to her. She it went through a procedure, and she advised me to start following this page, We Can Wear White. And so through that and me learning advocacy for myself, I was able to speak to my doctor and just say, this is a journal that I've kept. This is what's happening, and this is what I want to have done. And so when I went in with that verbiage and that language, there was no pushback on me. She knew that I wanted to have a procedure where it's similar to a C-section, where I was actually cut open and hospitalized and had the fibroids removed. By that time, my fibroids had grown to, because again, it were years later, my fibroids were the size of, I had one that was 10 centimeters, so the size of a baby's head. And the other one it had grown from strawberry size to clementine orange size. So imagine all that on your stomach. So when I see women nowadays, I'm like, she may not just have a belly. She may be suffering silently from fibroids, right?
So what did you ultimately have done? So you decided to have the fibroids removed.
Completely removed, yes.
Okay.
And I at this time, I just feel I was telling my OBGYN, I just felt very attached to my stuff, my girl parts. I wanted to keep my uterus. I wanted to keep my things. And so I didn't want to have a hysterectomy. I didn't even want a partial. And to your point, my mom and my sister both had hysterectomies, and I was like, I ain't doing it. So had it removed.
Yes.
And when I tell you, immediately felt the difference, bloating was gone. The extreme periods were minimal. I'm talking about, I don't want to get too graphic on the show, but women that are suffering from fibroids or have this and been diagnosed know what I'm talking about.
Well, I'm
When
sorry,
you're
but
checking,
this is
you're
the
like
whole
getting up,
point of the
checking.
show.
Oh, okay.
Because I really want to drive the point home as to like, what is happening with us?
Yeah.
And so this is a good segue real quick back to Noni.
Yes.
What are some of the symptoms? I mean, how does someone know? I mean, you had a cyst burst.
Yes.
You had these little bitty pea size, but you had it in your family. First of all, is it genetic?
And hard periods are not normal.
No.
Let's talk about
See, and this is what we're here for. So first of all, is this something that's passed down?
It is. It will run in the family. So you hear, if the mother had or the sister had, then there's a high likelihood the one will get. In terms of whether it's genetics, stress, not enough research has been prioritized to do that work. We need that done so we know exactly what in the first place brings about fibroids, and whether it's genetics, where the link is. And And the fact that it affects mostly Black and brown women, that the suffering of Black and brown women hasn't been prioritized even by the medical community. That needs to happen because it's a quality of life issue.
100%.
Yes, there are symptoms like Donisha was saying here, heavy bleeding, which can actually lead to severe anemia. I've seen women having to get blood transfusions because of severe bleeding. And even if it's low-grade anemia, the woman is feeling exhausted and washed out, and sometimes has a hard time even doing their job because of how tired they feel. And those are the fibroids that are sitting inside the uterus, the ones inside the inner lining. Those are the ones. They can also interfere with fertility. So women that want to get pregnant, fibroids can cause problems, and also grow during pregnancy from that pea size to a huge fibroid during pregnancy and cause premature labor or stillbirths.
Whoa.
Okay? Yeah. So, and the ones that sit outside now, going on with the symptoms, the ones that sit outside the uterus, if it's in the front, it can be sitting on the bladder and cause issues with urination, where your frequency with urination, you feel like you have to pee even when it's only 2 drops, or even interfere with the passage of urine. And then the ones that sit behind the uterus can even push on the spine and cause back pain. There's also the pelvic pain. The bloating that she talked about here is a big problem. There's also back there's this part of anatomy we call the rectum. That's where before the poop comes out, it passes through the rectum. And if a big fibroid is sitting on that will cause constipation, people having issues with even pooping. So a lot of problems, a lot of quality of life issues, including the severe anemia that's really, really dangerous that women have to endure. And that is
I was told I had low iron.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it was like that the fibroids are causing the low iron, and it was just, here's a supplement.
So that's my question. Okay, so so when you all go to the doctor with these symptoms, do they think fibroids at all off top, or are you all doing all this research yourself because these symptoms are not being resolved and you're still having issues?
I think, for me, it was just, I didn't have the symptoms right away. So it was just like, oh, don't worry about it. And, and it was just dismissed. It was not until I was having the heavy bleeding where I was about to pass out. Like I'm on set and I'm doing makeup, and all of a sudden I'm, running down on my pants. Like I was just like, okay, yeah. And then I was like, okay, and I got to walk upstairs, all of those things. And it was just so much. And the fact that some of the doctors can dismiss you and not really listen to you, and about, like, for the fact that you even have to show proof, journal, like all of those things.
You are correct about the fact it's common knowledge in the medical community that Black women fibroids, and so it's become normalized, and so we get dismissed because it's become, oh yeah,
That's the way of life.
teeth. Yeah, that's the way deal with it.
Yeah.
So that happens a lot, and which also brings the topics that you brought about options, what to do. Embolization is one of them that you mentioned, which is in a way starving the fibroid so that it goes away. There's another one. There's the myomectomy, which is removing them, and hysterectomy is another one. The radiofrequency ablation is another one that can be done. And for every woman, every situation is different. What works for you or what works for you might not work for you. A woman that wants to have babies down the road, you cannot do a hysterectomy. Sometimes with those procedures like embolization, the fibroids or even myomectomy, the fibroid might grow back.
That's what I was going to ask you. So with all these treatments that you're mentioning, with the exception of a full hysterectomy, because it sounds like obviously that's the only area where where fibroids grow. Other than that, is there a possibility that they'll come back after you do all these other things?
Yes. Remember the fibroid, what feeds them? 2 things feed them. The blood supply, which embolization is pinching off the blood supply, and estrogen. Estrogen is a hormone that we make. It's one of our reproductive hormones that we make. Our ovaries are factories for estrogen, especially during the reproductive years. Every month we we make tons of estrogen because it's preparing for the baby. And then when the baby doesn't come, the estrogen drops. Then again, the next month, the whole thing starts.
Which is the menstrual cycle.
Yes,
Yes.
yeah.
Okay.
And so, and fibroids, the estrogen makes the fibroids grow. So that's a big one, the estrogen. And the reason I'm saying this, I don't want women to blame themselves and say, it's my diet or whatever.
Or I'm too stressed all the time. I mean,
And
stress is real, though.
There could be an element of that. I'm not dismissing that. But the biggest driver is that estrogen that we are making, the ovaries are making.
Okay.
And so we see even after menopause, when we stop having our periods, the estrogen levels drop way down and the fibroids stop growing so we know that estrogen is a big thing for fibroids. Yes.
This is like, this clearly needs a bigger discussion. I'm blown away by this information. I feel so ignorant, but I also feel so blessed to be able to have a platform to talk about the things that I don't know about. And if I don't know about them, there's other people who don't know about them. Or on the flip side, ladies like you who are experiencing this and are not, feeling either comfortable or feel so isolated. Clearly you're not alone. Like, this is sounding, okay. Estrogen. So do Black and brown women produce more estrogen? Is this why it impacts us more? Do we have any idea why we are the ones who are suffering more than other ethnic groups?
That should be researched on.
Okay.
We don't know. And why white women have less, why we have, we don't know. That's a question that we don't know. We do. There's the thinking that obesity, adds on to the problem.
Okay.
And this is because fat will hold on to the estrogen. So when we make estrogen, within the body will metabolize that estrogen and it will leave the body eventually, half-life 12 to 20 hours. It's gone. But not the half of it is gone. But if the body composition is high in fat, that fat will hold on to that estrogen, so it stays in the body longer. So that's one of the risk factors for that is talked about is increasing the risk for have these fibroids growing. So that way, but we also know that women who are not obese, Black women that are not obese,
Yes. I have quite a few girlfriends who are Slim Jims. Okay, like,
yeah, and that needs to be researched. Why? Yeah, could it be stress? Could that be contributing?
But I want to say, and I love that you're saying that we need people for research needs to be done. But my biggest thing has always been we need to be a part of the research. And it's so hard, right? Because there's such a mistrust in the medical community. But if we want to know, even when we talk about perimenopause and menopause, if we want to know what's hurting women, we need to be available and be a part of those research that's happening or push for it to happen.
Yes.
well, and that's the key.
Yeah.
And that's what we're doing here together today. I think this is just the beginning of a bigger conversation around fibroids. And I know I've heard, a little birdie told me that you, through your fabulous bloom, are doing some sort of fibroid panel or some sort of fibroid awareness event.
Yes, exactly. We will be having that on July 29th.
Okay.
On a Tuesday at 6 p.m. So be there. Especially if you want to be fully informed and meet women that are going through the same journey as you are, right? So we decided we were blessed to be able to connect with OHA.
Yeah.
And they will be supporting that venture, and I'm really excited for that because it's needed. We need to have that conversation, especially here out in the Northwest where our communities are not really gelled in together. This is our time for Black and brown individuals, so women, Black and brown women, to come together and have a conversation about our wellness.
Yes.
Fibroid Awareness Month.
Yes.
Yes,
So-
Fibroid Awareness Month.
Fine. Well, we need more awareness. And so we're definitely going to contribute to that movement. You know, I'm going to show up and show out
Yes.
for this. And thank you to everyone. Thank you, right? Shout out to Oregon Health Authority. I mean, really, really making things happen in the community. Huge impact, especially also for people of color. We are not being ignored, at least not by OHA.
Nope.
And as long as they're here, we will be here doing this good work. And so we'll be seeing you very soon at the event. And thank you all so much for this conversation. Again, bigger conversation to be had. It's a community, it's a collective, and it's a real situation to have conversations about. So thank you guys so much.
Yes,
Thank you for
thank
having
you.
us. I appreciate you.
Special thanks to our presenting sponsor, Oregon Health Authority, helping people and communities achieve optimum physical, mental, and social well-being. And thanks to our supporting partners, Loiza, a community-centered event space in the heart of Northeast Portland, and Adorn Boutique for my fabulous wardrobe. Situations and Conversations is a Trey Renee production in conjunction with Thomas Chung Films.